Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Courageous Curiosity Podcast. I'm Superintendent Ben Mainka here with another awesome show. They're all awesome shows. I always kind of start that way, but I love when we get to talk with some of our incredibly talented people that work in our community, work in our school district, and today we are going to be talking about something that, I don't know, often doesn't get talked about, and that's middle school, middle-level education. Yeah, exactly. It's a big woohoo. It's one of those things where I've been super interested about this particular topic because we spend a lot of time talking about elementary, and we know how important those primary grades are, building kids' capacity and skills. We talk a lot about high school because that's where kids launch into the world, and we're talking about internships and all sorts of things, and that's all very exciting. But one of the groups of kids, one of the groups of staff in a school system that actually is the pivotal point that will have a huge impact on which direction a child goes is middle school. And we often talk about the forgotten middle, but it's an age where so many important things happen. And I'm very excited to talk to a couple of our teachers and our esteemed principal, Mr. Baker, today. And really kind of understanding adolescence in this age group. I had the benefit of teaching middle school. I was a high school and middle school teacher, but most of my time was actually teaching middle school, and it was absolutely my favorite grade to teach. I loved it, and so know that we are all in good company today. But I'd love for each of you to just share a little bit about yourself, kind of your background, obviously what you teach here, what you do here, and then obviously something that you're excited about so far this year. Just kind of a brief introduction of yourself and kind of how you come into this space before we get the conversation started. Mr. Baker, we'll start with you.
Hi, good morning. Robert Baker is my name. I'm the proud principal of the middle school here in Novi. This is my 8th year leading Novi Middle School. Previous to that, I was a high school administrator as well as a teacher here at the high school at Novi High School. So something I'm super excited about for this year is a couple things. We have our DC trip coming up for 8th graders, and there's just a nice buzz feel in the air around the school. And also, we just have an amazing group of students this year. Academically and behaviorally, I've really enjoyed working with this year's group.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you talk about the DC trip. That's like one of those core memories. You hear people talk about that. It's like whenever you talk to a high school student about their favorite experience in all of their school, it often comes back to the DC trip. Mm-hmm. So you're obviously doing something right there. So that's awesome.
I'm Lisa Shindorf. I teach 7th grade world history at the middle school, and even at curriculum night, I talk about the ever-changing, unique adolescent, and I think that is so true. I've been teaching for 31 years, and I did start out my very first 2 years in elementary, and I really felt like I did the best job I could, but I didn't feel like I was reaching my livelihood of what I get excited about every day, and that was hearing Locker Slam and just the middle school talk and the middle school attitudes. My father was a middle school teacher for 41 years, so wow. I think I grew up with a middle school teacher being in that middle age group, and I loved going to school with him, and I just really felt like the middle school was where I needed to be. So for the last 28 years, I've been at the middle school, and I really feel like after 31 years, I'm happy to be at the middle school. I love this group of kids. I've been in Novi for 27 years. I taught 4 in Huron Valley. So I really have seen 2 different districts in my career so far, and I'm just proud to be not only in a beautiful building, because I think that helps all of our aura around the building, but these kids have changed drastically, just the culture, the diversity. I love teaching it. When I teach about world religions or when I teach about, culture and diversity, Novi is a great place to be teaching when you bring up all that in world history too.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's such a kind of a rich diversity that we have to be able to build upon so many of our kids' life experiences and the families that, live here and go to school here. World history would be an awesome subject to teach here.
Especially here in Novi. Yeah. And I always have kids and parents always say I never cared for history. I never liked history until I had you. And really, I think that you have to make it connecting to the real world, to them, and bring in connections. And I love what I teach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love what I
Absolutely.
teach. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, Schulze.
Awesome. My name is Rebekah Schulze, and this is my 6th year at Novi Middle School. I moved here with my husband in 2016 from Germany, where I taught for 7 years, teaching English in Germany, and then I swapped. Now at the middle school, I teach German and U.S. history.
Awesome.
So I love it at the middle school. It was sort of my first long-term landing spot when we moved here. I didn't know anybody in Michigan. I had never been to Michigan.
Wow.
It was hard to find a job, but I was subbing, and I really found a home pretty quickly at the middle school and found it's a pretty special place.
Yeah.
I was subbing in several different districts and buildings, and I became the building sub for a couple years before I was able to get certified to teach in Michigan after moving here from Germany, and then lucky to get a job teaching German and U.S. history, and I love it. I love
That's
my job. I tell
amazing.
my kids every day, I love my job.
We
That's
choose to be
amazing.
here. We choose to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
what I like to say.
something that I've been in several districts, and that's not always the case. And so we're really fortunate to have all three of you serving our kids in our community. I'd love to start off with kind of just kind of a level setting question, and that is, what is the typical profile of a middle school kid? Which probably the general answer would be there is no profile, but I'm just interested to kind of, what are some of the characteristics? Because you hear people talk about, middle schoolers, and that's something that, I think some people are like, they get nervous about. But what is, in your experience, kind of that typical, some of the characteristics you're going to encounter when you encounter a middle school child?
They're trying to find themselves.
Okay.
They're trying to figure out who they are, who their friends are, how to navigate their studies, their learning, what they are interested in, what clubs can I join.
They're all over the board.
They're trying to find themselves.
They are all over, whether it's they have not started growing yet, or they grew way early and they are giants, don't know their bodies yet. They don't know who their friend groups are necessarily. They don't know what kind of person they want to be. And that's what's special about them, too. Having worked in high school for many years and then going to middle school, is every kid I encounter wants to be a good little human. They still are very moldable. They want to grow into. They're silly. They're sometimes smelly. They're sometimes awkward. There are people, but they also just genuinely want to do good in the world. They want to be good humans. They admit sometimes when they make mistakes, and they want to grow. And they use a lot of funny language, too.
And I appreciate our setup with our 7th and 8th grade building, because I do think that they are different than a 6th grader also. So I appreciate Novi having that 5-6 and then a 7-8 building. I do think that they're two different entities.
Yeah, for sure. And you bring that up for those of you that are listening or watching this podcast. Novi has a 5-6 kind of an intermediate school, and just like Lisa said, we kind of feel that 6th grade might be just a little bit young for middle school, or for that kind of being around the 8th grade kids. But also 5th graders are getting a little bit old for elementary school, so it's nice to have that intermediate school. But our middle school is truly a middle school, right? And so, as you said, it's a nice environment for that. But
And there's a huge change between 7th and 8th grade.
Yep,
Oh, yeah.
I see it every year because I get to have them in 7th grade for German 7, and then they take 8th grade German 1. And the change, I don't know what happens over summer, but it's a crazy change that happens. But
yeah,
I love about middle schoolers that they bring like really a lot of open-mindedness, I feel like, to life. Like that trying to find where they're going comes from this like radical open-mindedness of like, well, tell me about that. Well, tell me about that. And there's an incredible curiosity and open-mindedness of learning about other cultures, thinking about history, thinking about their place in the world. That's just incredible. It's so much fun to be around that just genuine curiosity and open-mindedness that is energizing to me.
And I feel like they're not afraid to be silly still.
Oh, yeah.
right.
I think at the high school they're more guarded, perhaps. 8th grade they start to, but in 7th grade where I teach, you will see them being silly. And I have to remind myself, they're just 11 and 12. Like
Sure.
they are still young people. They're still young humans trying to figure it out.
One of my favorite memories of starting out at the middle school was going to my first choir concert right before the holidays, and they have a tradition of singing the song called Fruitcake, and the boys in the choir get up front with aprons on, and they do this silly dance, and then the girls like put their hands through their arms, and then they flip around in reverse, and it is the most silly thing, but the fact that they're all doing it and fully engaged in it is something I wouldn't have necessarily seen at an older age or even at a younger age. It's kind of like the sweet spot for just like being silly and having fun, but also performing and having a great time too.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, and I think that that silliness, that open-mindedness, all of those things make it probably fun to come to work. And so, Lisa, you talked about being a teacher for 31 years, which is amazing and an accomplishment and all of those things. But, I was in your class earlier this year. You do not present as a 31-year teacher, right? I mean, you're still coming with a lot of passion, a lot of energy. Do you think that this age in some ways kind of keeps you in that kind of energetic space?
Absolutely. When you're out on the streets or you see memes, 6'7", I'm like, oh, I can tell you about 6'7". It keeps me young. It keeps me energized. I still get, gosh, you have me worked up, 31 years. I still get letters from my kids, and I had a student leave. Friday was her last day, and she gave me a note, and she said, I actually felt smart in your classroom. And to me, that's what it's all about, trying to find yourself, but also trying to have that self-confidence to say, I can do anything. Like, I can learn world history. It may not have been my favorite when I began, but you showed me how to feel smart, how to connect with the learning, how to be engaged with the learning. And that's what I have to be all about still. I put it on my little Facebook, and I said, year 31 is just as important as year 1. You are still making an impact to every child that comes in your classroom, no matter if I've been teaching for 31 years or this is my first year.
Love that.
So I really feel like I'm still relevant in their lives. I'm still young. I try to stay that way. I have 2 that are out of college and 1 senior myself, so I still feel like I'm a mom. I'm sandwiched between my parents' age and my kids' age, but I still feel like I'm connecting to our middle schoolers here at Novi.
But public service announcement for all of you former students of Mrs. Shindorf and all of our former students. Tell us who you are when you come up and meet us in public. Remind us of your name, because you don't look like you looked in middle school when you come back and visit with us.
So much.
They tell me I haven't changed.
So much.
I actually had a parent at my curriculum night, and I have his child now, and he's like, Mrs. Shindorf, you have not changed since I began,
Wow.
And he was one of my first students 27 years ago when the building opened.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. I mean, you'll have the opportunity, I'm sure, Mr. Baker, you'll have started, if you haven't already, where you actually get to hire some of your former students. So, yeah, that's an experience that's pretty surreal.
Well, I've taught a few teachers, too, that are in the district.
So
I feel bad when I turn around in our welcome, staff meeting, and I say, oh, hi, I'm Lisa Shindorf. I teach 7th grade. And they're like, oh, we know we had you.
We had you.
And I feel awful because sometimes I do not remember them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, what is the main, if you were to be able to summarize it, what are some of the main differences between how we do middle school and maybe how Germany does middle school? Having had the opportunity to teach in both settings, what are some of those characteristics that are maybe different here in Novi and how we do it here?
Something I love about the way that we do middle school in the U.S. and in Novi particularly is just the inclusivity and diversity. Novi is a very high-achieving district. There are a lot of people who are pushing and thinking, they want to get the good test scores and stuff. In Germany, students actually, starting in 5th grade, get split into different schools. So I worked a lot with the high-achieving schools, the college preparatory schools. But I think there's something special about having a really diverse student population that is headed all different places after middle school and high school that actually makes that, it pushes the high achievers in sort of a different way, and it really gets them outside of just like academics and getting that test score or whatever it is, that well-roundedness I think is great, which is not a knock on the German system.
Sure.
They find that in other ways, but just in middle school, having the opportunity to take all kinds of, even the exploratory with foods and STEM and all of those things, but also just being with peers of all different abilities is an incredible thing. And I think it's great for everybody in the schools.
Yeah, and in some ways gives them some leadership opportunities as well, which
Absolutely.
is really cool. So Novi Middle School this year was rated as the top middle school in the state of Michigan. And, Mr. Baker, this is your 8th year in the building, is that right? Talk about what some of the things are that you think makes the building kind of special in that way. And, obviously we have incredible teachers. We have really sharp kids. We have families that support the school system. Those are all things I know that are external and help, in all of this. But, what are some of the things that you think about our building, programming and otherwise, are making such an impact?
Yeah, great question. I do have to go back to the point you just made is the people in the building make a big difference.
Yep.
I've been blessed to inherit a staff when I started that just knew who they were and what kind of product they wanted to put out there for our kids. But I've also been able to add to that staff as we hire and bring in people. And what's kind of awesome about middle school is you don't need to have a technical knowledge that's amazingly deep. We're not teaching BC calculus. You have to know what you're talking about and be a good teacher. But I can also really focus on finding kind people who love on our kids. And that's really one of the things I'm always looking for is who's going to not give it to our kids, but support our kids and want all of our kids to be successful. We've done a lot of work over the years to create a common experience for our kids. And when I came in, I told the staff, I said, I've got twins. And when they're taking 2 of the same classes, but 2 different teachers, I want them to have a common, similar experience with really well thought out plans for what kids are able to do when they leave your class. What are the transfer skills that we want them to have? And the staff did a ton of work to really create a common curriculum. So when I go into 2 classes or 3 classes, I'm watching very similar lessons done to the style of the teacher so that they have some autonomy to be kind of creative in their own ways. But the what they're being asked to produce, the what they're being asked to do is very similar. It's or the same. And I think that's a really great tool for raising the bar. We also really worked hard to separate behavior from grades. I think that goes a long way to kind of help.
Especially at middle school, important,
Yep. We created our POWER rubric. The POWER is the acronym we use for a lot of things around the building, teaching 5 key skills, teaching perseverance, taking ownership, being welcoming, empathetic, and respectful. Those are characteristics that we asked kind of crowdsourced that acronym from our students and staff. And we embedded that in everything we do. And so I really think we live that. When students misbehave, they have to write POWER reflections. When they do great things, they get POWER certificates showing what they've accomplished. And our teachers fill out POWER rubrics every quarter to talk about the behaviors they're seeing in class, but separating those from, hey, you turn this in a day late, that's a 50% deduction or something like that I don't necessarily feel should bleed into grades as well. So really having that common learning experience has been key, I believe. We really treat middle school like learning to ride a bike, but with training wheels on. And so it's the first time our kids are moving around from class to class. It's also a chance for kids to make mistakes and pick themselves up and dust themselves off. We have a reassessment system that we've put in place that our staff sometimes drives them crazy, but it also is good for our kids to kind of understand that they can make mistakes and learn from them and can continue to grow, and use reassessment as an opportunity to really show that they're getting there. We want everyone to rise up and grow, and I think that hopefully is leading to a lot of success for our building.
Love that. Either of you have anything to add?
I was just going to add that it's really, I feel like we're a culture of whole person learning, that it's like the focus is on the learning and not necessarily on the grade, which really comes from the reassessment and all of that stuff. Like, we want you to learn. And if it's learning how to get to class on time, then that's, behavior thing. Or if it's learning how to conjugate German verbs, like, I'll work with you on that and you can reassess, and you're not going to be locked into some sort of learning that happened in October in May, So that, I think that culture is really important, of like, kids are whole people, and learning and all of those, like, whole person learning.
I really just take pride on teaching and hopefully promoting empathy toward each other. We all do not go home to the same households in the evenings, and in middle school, families are ever changing, just like they are. So we have to take accountability on what am I really getting upset with this child about? How are they being affected by other kids? Are other kids affecting them? And I really like just thinking about taking that ownership of responsibility, but learning how to do it at this age and not yelling at kids. Like, if you yell at someone, no one's going to listen to you. Really sitting down and saying, hey, what's going on today? Talk to me about that. Or, and if I hear two kids talking about each other, I squash that right away. I was like, nope, they're not in this classroom. You will be empathetic toward people. Everyone has feelings, emotions. Take ownership of what you do, and that's all you can do. So really, I think that our power rubric is set up to be a powerful character building outlook and lesson that we teach them. And it's more than just being academically smart. It's like Rebekah was saying, the well-rounded child is truly what we're teaching them in middle school to be. How are you well-rounded? Because in high school, you're kind of a little bit more on your own. You're kind of making decisions. You're starting to drive. Like, those are huge responsibilities. So in the middle school era, I think we really need to try to take ownership, but know that you can make mistakes. And this is where you take that empathetic road of realizing that not everyone is just like you, and you will make mistakes too one day, and appreciate, what others can give you if you're kind to them.
Yeah. I'm struck by a couple things hearing the three of you talk. I mean, learning is clearly constant. And I think one of the things that sometimes gets lost is when you start talking about reassessment, or you're talking about the whole person, all of these things, actually having kids learn things and not just be able to say, well, I didn't turn it in, okay, I got a grade and I move on, is significantly more rigorous. We're actually telling the child that your learning is more important than just the paper that I'm going to push across the desk. And actually, you're not going to be able to get out of learning this material. Like, this is what we are so built on. But it's interesting hearing both of you as teachers talk as well, because I think sometimes secondary educators, we teach a subject. So when you hear sometimes a teacher say, well, I teach history, or I teach German, or I teach math, whatever it is. But I'm listening to you, and you didn't really talk about that. What you were talking about was, I'm teaching empathy. I'm teaching them how to be good people. And at middle school, this is such a critical time for them to develop those skills. And so it's so awesome that we're focusing on those things, because that is going to pay huge dividends for them as people when they become adults, and maybe end up coming back and teaching in the school where you're, hopefully you're still teaching by then. But, it's just awesome. It's exciting and inspirational to hear the three of you kind of just beam about this school that is just so special.
I still feel like we can make a difference in this age. They are moldable,
And a couple other things that bubble up is something that I noticed from the high school time when I was here that I really valued, was that Novi High School doesn't have a valedictorian or a salutatorian or like the best, and there's this ranking system, and we really work to keep the rankings off of the transcript as well, to basically say we want everyone to be successful, and it's okay if a variety of people have a 4.0 because they took different classes and pushed themselves to do well and excel, and we don't need to have you kill yourself to take that extra AP class to be number one. And so that kind of mindset shifted and kind of settled into my brain to also say, at middle school, let's push everyone with universal accommodations that support all of our kids, to push them forward, to get our EL students to be comfortable and growing in the language as well as in the subject matter. And our teachers work really hard to work with those students as well.
Well, and this district has changed. I mean, since I've been here 27 years, I've seen it grow. I've seen it change. I've seen curriculum change. And like Mr. Baker was saying, we almost have to see where our kids are when they come to us and then adapt. Like, what can we do for them to make them grow wherever they come in at, whatever country they came from, whatever step they're at, whatever needs they are. We have grown to meet them too, which I think is pretty powerful in a district that is changing all the time.
Sure.
Especially since when I began 27 years ago.
Yeah.
We were not a mixed, diverse culture, and I've seen changes. I've seen it work. I've seen successes, obviously. So I take pride in that.
Yeah.
Kind of connected what the teachers were just mentioning. Rebekah and Lisa were just talking about kind of the empathy and building in some of the mindset for teachers. I also inherited a world that had been set up long before me. For every Friday morning, we have a dedicated homeroom time that's planned by teachers, working to build team building as well as some anti-bullying curriculum sometimes, but also teaching power to kids and teaching them about their digital presences online sometimes and teaching them how to interact with each other. And I think that kind of little bit of education built in over the course of the year really goes a long way to shaping kind of the culture of that homeroom class in the morning, but also our building.
Absolutely. Well, as we kind of think about wrapping up, I would love for you to just say either, in conclusion here, something that you would want somebody that's listening to this episode to know about Novi Middle School, or something that you're really looking forward to that you think we're leaning into, or something that you're really excited about coming up here in the not too distant future for Novi Middle School. Rebekah, we'll start with you.
Something I want people to know about the middle school is just that it's a place of joy, that we have a lot of fun. And, kids match the energy, that we have a great staff, a lot of teachers who are just happy, joyful, enthusiastic, and kids meet that enthusiasm. And so I think people think of middle school as like, I don't know,
Scary.
so many people are like, oh, you teach middle school. Oh my gosh.
There's a special place in heaven for
we are all there on purpose. But because they are so much fun, we have so much fun. Like, I think that people would be surprised to show up to my classroom and see kids like dancing along to a video, which they will probably not be happy that I'm outing them, but they like willingly dance, or engaging in an incredible discussion, an empathetic discussion, talking about U.S. history and connecting to different cultures and different experiences that they've had. But that middle school, especially Novi Middle School, I think is a place of just a lot of joy. And so that's what I would pass on, that I'm there on purpose. I think we're all there on purpose, and we really love middle schoolers.
I love that.
That's basically what I tell people at my curriculum night, too. My husband is also a middle school teacher, so some people literally think we're crazy for teaching this age for this long. He's a 30-year-old teacher, too. So I really feel like it's my place. I did elementary for my first 2 years. I love that age. I did the best I could, but middle school is where it's at. It's fun. It's, like Rebekah was saying, joyful. It's exciting. I walk in and you never know what that kid is going to tell you. So I appreciate that at this age, they still want to learn. They're still finding themselves, like we've talked about. And really, it's just making them good humans for the future and growing with them, but also being real with them. Like, hey, you are changing. This is what's going to happen. And like, we have to learn from these mistakes. So we're not perfect, but I think we're close. No, I'm just kidding. I think I work in a great district, and I'm very proud to be at the middle school for this long. We are a great district.
Thank you.
Lisa, I tell people I'm never bored.
Never bored. Never.
Is
We might be crazy, but we're never bored. We're never bored.
Sure. One thing I will say briefly is that we used Yonder pouches, introduced those last year, and those have gone a long way to helping our kids re-engage a little bit in the classroom day to day. So thumbs up and thank you for your support with those. Something I want to share about Novi Middle School and for any administrator that might be listening to this and thinking about your own school is get the right people on the bus, people that love on our kids, people that care deeply about our kids, and then also we always we stay focused on a few things that really drive what we do rather than chasing everything. We really focus on these core concepts that we've been talking about, and I think it's gone a long way to shape our culture.
So great. And we are so indebted to the three of you. You could work any place, and you choose to work here, and we're just so lucky that you love on our kids. For anybody that's listening or watching, you can see we just have incredible people that get to work with our students here in this district, and I'm just always in awe every time I get a chance to engage with any people that are. We have others that are like this, and it's just amazing. Thank you, all three of you, for being on the show today and just celebrating some of the incredible things that you're doing at Novi Middle School. It is a gem, and I hope that anyone that gets the opportunity to experience it, take that opportunity. It is truly a special place and filled with amazing people. So thank you again for being here. Thanks to those who are listening. Hope everybody stays curious and have a great day.